It's the holidays. This is some people's favorite time of year. It's pretty. There are lights everywhere and decorations. It's family time, and it's really a romanticized idea. We get to give and receive gifts. We get to spend time and communicate to the people that we care about how much they mean to us. And it also means that a lot of us are seeing our family for the first time or maybe even the only time all year long. Well, that is really exciting, and that family time means a lot and is fantastic. But sometimes it's also really stressful. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I know that it's happened to me, and I've been talking to quite a few people lately who have also had this experience. It seems that when we move out, maybe even move away, and we start to spend time with other people and we start working on ourselves, growing as a person, if you will. We work on our temper, our anger management, our irritability, ways that we communicate, things like that. And it feels really good. And we start to feel really proud of the changes that we've made and the progress that we've been able to make. And then we try and keep this newfound confidence when we go to visit our family, the one or few times a year that we go to see them. And something kind of strange happens. For whatever reason, the second we get into their bubble and we start to interact with these people that we've known our entire lives, all of those new skills and all of that new capability seems to go out the window. Suddenly we see ourselves as that child that we used to be that didn't have those skills in dealing with their anger and didn't have those ability, that same ability to communicate effectively. This can be really frustrating and discouraging, and it can cause a lot of difficulty, especially around the holidays. So why is this happening, and what can we do about it? To why this is happening is actually pretty complex. There are a lot of things coming together for this perfect storm of creating a really difficult experience on the holidays. But let's talk about a couple of them. The first might be really simple, actually, which is that we just tend to be primed to react certain ways depending on our circumstances. So, for instance, if you have to travel home for the holidays and you're in the same home that you grew up in, you might notice yourself acting like you did when you lived there. That's really common. This is a really common experience because everything about that place is reminding you of who you were when you lived there. And it's really difficult to remember and kind of integrate all of these new experiences that you've had when you're back in those old circumstances. Sometimes this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it can mean that if you had less communication skills or if you had a harder time talking to your mom when you were angry or irritable, that those things are going to come out in full force. There are a couple other things that might be happening also. It may be more than just being primed by your environment. It's possible that it's really specific to these relationships. Now, when we practice these new skills that we have, the new communication or whatever, and we practice with new romantic interests or at work or with friends that we've developed as an adult, we're starting with a fresh slate. This is a clean slate, and we get to decide how the relationship is going to move forward. There's no old stuff. There's no expectation of how you're going to act or how you're going to be. Now, you move back into this relationship with your mom or your dad or your siblings after you haven't seen them for a while, and all of those old expectations are there, which means that they might be interacting with you in such a way that actually causes or instigates that kind of behavior from you. So they may be expecting you to be kind of irritable, and so they tiptoe around you, which makes you kind of irritable, and then you sort of like do that dance with them. So they're playing their part, and then you join in with your part, and it's totally unconscious, which makes it really hard to do anything about it, but not impossible. There are a few different ways that we can actually head this off before we even get to our parents' house or before we even go home for the holidays. The first and the most important that you're going to get tired of hearing me say is it's so important to have self-compassion. So we need to recognize that you're going to slip up, there are going to be mistakes, and there are going to be moments in your travels home or your vacation or your holidays there that are going to be difficult and that maybe you're going to regress a little bit. The second thing to do that might be pretty helpful is actually think about what was problematic in your relationship with your parents or your relationship with your family when you were there more of the time. Or what tends to happen in the holidays when you come back. Maybe for you, it's your temper. Maybe it's that when you hear someone saying like political things that you really disagree with, you feel like you have to get argumentative and you have to address it. It might even be the opposite, that when you hear things that are really offensive to you, you feel like you just lose your voice and you can't say anything. This happens to a lot of people as well, and it can be anything on that spectrum or a million other things, also. So if you can spend some time just kind of contemplating, what is this like for me? What doesn't feel good in these relationships to me? And so what's likely to happen? We can do a couple things then. Number one, if you have like a one or two sort of behaviors that you have that are really problematic to you and that you really don't want to have manifest on this holiday, then spend some time thinking about, okay, well, how have I practiced doing that differently with the people in my life now? What is different about the way that I interact with these scenarios? Or possibly even just asking yourself, how do I want to react? How do I want to respond when someone says something offensive? What do I want to do when I feel like my mom is just nagging at me and I can feel my irritation rising and my discomfort? Once you've made that decision of, okay, here are sort of my Achilles heels, if you will, and this is how I want to respond instead. So this is what I usually do that really doesn't work for me and I don't want to do anymore, and this is how I want to be able to respond. Then we start thinking of things that could get in the way. So what's going to happen if that's really hard? And what would it look like if that was really hard in your family? Basically, we're role-playing scenarios just in your head. You don't even really have to say these out loud. If you have a therapist, this is a great thing to do in therapy. But just kind of noticing like, okay, well, these are the behaviors that my dad has that really, really bother me and that tend to set me off. These are the ways that he might respond if I try to gain some empowerment inside of the situation that would really be problematic for me. Then you get to follow it through and say, okay, so if I responded in this way that I decided I wanted to, my dad responds in this way that is really difficult for me, then what do I want to do? And at what point, and this is a really important thing, right? So if you hear nothing else, then definitely hear this. At what point do I feel like I need to walk away? So that can be situational or environmental. What are they doing that's making you feel like you need to step outside for a while, go on a walk, or maybe go on a drive somewhere? It could also be internal though. Noticing the response in your body, like, oh, I feel it rising, the irritation or the anger, it's in my chest, I feel this pressure, or I feel this weight. And I just know it's about to explode out of me, and I really don't have it under control right now. That's a really great time. That would be a good time to just go on a walk or go on a drive or remove yourself and then come back later when you're feeling calmer. Now, the whole goal is to be able to spend time with your family and enjoy it. It's to be able to have the holidays and celebrate instead of feeling badly about yourself or guilty because you responded in a way that you thought you'd outgrown, or you yelled at somebody or interacted in a situation in a way that makes you feel shame or guilt. There's no reason to throw that stuff into your holidays and corrupt it with that. Let's give you the best chance possible to really enjoy your time and enjoy this experience by spending some time really giving yourself permission to not be perfect and knowing that this is a normal thing that is likely to happen to you. Noticing the things that typically happen, the patterns that typically play out with these individual family members that are really problematic to you. How do you respond that you don't like, and how do you want to respond instead? Then play out those scenarios and identify when is the best time, when is the best course of action for you to go on a walk or remove yourself for a short amount of time. So that could be, again, external. It could be something that people are doing at you or a way that the environment has changed, or it could be internal. It could just be the way that you feel in your environment and that you feel like you're losing your grasp of how you want to be in this situation. Well, I hope that's helpful for you, and if you have any thoughts or comments or even questions about that, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. I hope everybody's having a wonderful beginning of December, and I hope you all have beautiful holidays. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.